Now, looking at the p-value, we are confident the error is minimal. The minimum will not reach. The Board of Secondary Education at no level in the Elgon zone, Eastern Uganda, was rejected. And therefore, there is significant influence of institutional resources on the Board of Secondary Education at no level in Elgon zone, Eastern Uganda. The qualitative findings, when I interacted with the respondents, it was revealed that textbooks, libraries, laboratories, ICT facilities strengthen participation and curriculum delivery. And the study also revealed that inadequate textbooks, restricted borrowing and restricted borrowing of library materials exist in schools and have negative influence on the quality of education. In some schools, they have, as I said, they have the resources like the textbooks, but they are restricted. They have the laboratories. It is worse in laboratories. Laboratories are there, but restricted. So it becomes hard for a learner to learn to the materials to discover for himself to learn better more. Insufficient laboratory equipment constrain practical learning. In most of the schools, the laboratories, yes, the buildings are there, but the facilities within the laboratories are inadequate, and therefore the learners are limited. They are controlled in using those laboratory equipment. So it becomes an effect on the learning. Access to computers, weaken digital engagement. Whereas in Uganda today, computer is compulsory, they are teaching computer, but it should go beyond that. We have where the books are limited, the learners would love to use the computers, but the computers are limited. The internet, they have no access to internet, so it is a challenge in most of the institutions. Teachers sometimes rely on mobile phones and photocopy notes, limiting active and independent learning. And that today, with the competence-based curriculum, as a teacher is guiding the learner should be having the book in front to see what's happening is the following. So in a situation where a teacher has a phone, a learner it becomes hard for a learner to follow what is happening, and it becomes hard for a learner to discover for himself or herself. Interpretation of the findings. According to plausible theory, knowledge should be constructed. Now, adequate resources support inquiry. They support collaboration, experimentation, and critical thinking. As I said, we can look at both the library, where there are textbooks, and laboratory for science learning. In the laboratory, a learner can feel like going to study on his or her or on a small group. But if there's limitation of the facilities, it becomes hard for them to learn. According to Thorndike, practice and mastery, practice is very important. The more you practice, the more you remember and the more you understand. So master and practice are constrained when books and apparatus and the technologies are insufficient in institutions. And this was the case for Elgon Zone. According to force field and theory, adequate institutional resources are a driving force for effective curriculum implementation, while shortages and uneven distribution operate as restraining forces. As I said, force field and theory says that situations are maintained by an equilibrium between the forces which drive change and others which resist change. So in a situation where there are adequate institutional resources, then that is the driving force towards quality education. And in a situation where there are shortages and they are unevenly distributed, then it becomes a force resisting towards quality education. And ecological theory that preparation and readiness are key. And the professional competence alone is insufficient unless the resources are prepared and ready. There was a situation where a teacher come to class having a scheme of work for having a scheme of work for ICT, but was teaching CRE. So it proved there was no preparedness and there was no readiness. There was preparedness, but there was no readiness. because carrying a scheme of work for ICT to go and take CRA, there was no collaboration. And the supervisor said, please go and prepare, and the periodic table can come. So quality depends on adequacy, accessibility, relevance, equitable distribution, preparedness, readiness, and effective utilization. Conclusion. Institutional resources significantly and positively influence the quality of secondary education at ordinary level. Convergent evidence, this is from the evidence got from the respondents, that's the teachers, the learners, and then the administrators. This were the findings. And the competent teachers who design curricula alone are insufficient without adequate institutional resources to support the effective teaching and learning. Therefore, resource adequacy, relevancy, equitable access, preparedness, readiness, and effective utilization are important conditions for effective curriculum implementation and the quality of secondary education. The study concludes that institutional resources constitute an important empirical and practical foundation for improving the quality of secondary education at ordinary level. Recommendations. The Ministry of Education and Sports, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Education and Sports, should increase funding for textbooks, laboratories, ICT, facilities, and libraries to improve the quality of education. They should prioritize equitable distribution, and especially to disadvantaged rural schools. Should align.
So, Mr. Matsanga, it is time. You are on time, and I think those are the recommendations, but we need to be serious with time because we have very many. Yes. So maybe you can now stop there and flash back to your topic. Yes. So we want the second presenter.
I beg some of it.
That is Ken Naiga. Man, the name is a bit complicated. Yes, Ken Naiga. Yes, sister, please. You can take up the floor. So meanwhile, you can be noting down what you think has satisfied you or has not satisfied you in a member's presentation, because thereafter we shall have a lengthy discussion. Okay, sister, you are most welcome.
Thank you. I thank you very much for giving the opportunity to share our paper. We developed an instrument for studying completion of doctoral studies through self-determination theory, and we proposed procedures for testing its validity, reliability, and independence of constructs. The next slide. That is our presentation outline.
Yes.
Can we go to the next slide? Beginning with introduction, completion of doctoral studies, which we get through doctoral education, contributes to knowledge production, research capacity, innovation, highly skilled researchers, and academics. On-time completion of doctoral studies, therefore, is a key indicator of higher education effectiveness. However, delayed completion of doctoral studies remains a concern. Our existing studies attribute delayed completion of doctoral studies through structural and institutional factors such as funding, research, infrastructure, and supervision workload. However, limited attention has been given to completion of doctoral studies through the lens of self-determination theory, particularly in Africa and in Uganda. Moreover, existing instruments do not integrate the relevant self-determination theory constructs within a single instrument. For us to address these challenges, we adopted self-determination theory by Deng Arian 2000. They propose that behavioral outcomes are influenced by motivation and satisfaction of the three basic psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And the satisfaction of these needs, in turn, are influenced by the social context. And these relationships encouraged us
Dear Joshua, after sharing my screen, what next?
Despite it's being in place since 2013. And so this exposes stakeholders to the gaps in communication. Also found out that there is narrow and one-sided channels of communication, which is top, bottom. So the lower cadres, including students, find it hard to communicate effectively, and so this brings in the gaps of the intended policy objectives of timeliness, of accuracy, and of inclusivity. Please, let's continue. Okay, unresponsive feedback loops. That whereas the top officers communicate to faculty and staff and students, but when the lower people communicate, they don't get feedback. Actually, the first feedback which is received by the lower cadres is reprimands. One is not teaching, one is not performing work effectively, this is get the information. But if it's an achievement to faculty or to staff, that sometimes when it gets lost on the way or not at all communicated. We also found out that there is a constrained participation in decision making. That decisions are made entirely by officers of the university, as defined by what year. And the others are simply communicated to. So there is a gap in decision participation of the lower cadres. Then the policy implementation is a disconnect between the intended policy objectives and the actual practices on the ground. So, in conclusion, there is need for multiple diversified communication tools to be able to promote inclusivity, especially governance at Makerere University. For example, it requires to use, because they rely on circulars, emails, and yet in the university, there are people who have cleaners, who may not have smartphones, may not access internet, so it requires to use multiple tools, like involving the staff associationists, the MASA, the MWASA, because there's a way to communicate to their groups easily. Also, to use associations of students, cultural associationists tend to give more information to the students as compared to the mere noteboards and emails. So that can enhance, but especially governance. So recommendation is there's need to sensitize staff, like in workshops, a number of other forums on the policy and what it says. Identify communication channels, like I've been saying, even the town hall meetings are important, where you have members of the university in clusters concrete to them. Then institutional feedback should be enhanced, and then build staff capacity through workshops and so on. Thank you so much for the time that you have given me to.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Listen to me.
Presenting within the time you are in the time.
Thank you. Many thanks to my mentors, Professor Edward Fred Bakaudindi and Dr. Florence Nakamanya.
Please, you can stop there. So we go back to Stephen Bale. Is he ready? Are you ready now? Sebala, I mean. Stephen Sebala, sorry. Is there still a problem? Okay. You can.
Good morning again. My name is Stephen Sebale. I will be presenting on a research topic in the higher education sector.
Speak up.
Yeah, I'll be presenting my topic on. Is it okay? So the topic is beyond the ivory tower, research activities and community engagement outcomes in selected universities from central Uganda. This is a rundown of the outline. So basically, universities are spaces where socio-economic transformation is bound to begin. So essentially what we're saying here is that contemporary higher education systems are expected to generate knowledge, and if you read all the conduct spaces where to the vision specialties of the transformation is bound, you'll see a very front and center perspective of the concept. Essentially what we're saying universities to national contemporary higher education. However, despite increased research production, growing evidence that all the this knowledge, quantum knowledge that has been generated in universities, you see hiring for has had minimal effect within communities. Essentially, universities were international contemporary. However, despite now growing evidence that has this knowledge, quantum knowledge that has been generated in universities, knowledge hiring for in research has also minimal. Outcomes in selected universities from central Uganda. And we're asking this question. generally has been created as an end and not as a means. And there are several theories around knowledge production within universities, but the one theory that excited our study was the Gibbons theory of modes. How do we view knowledge and the changing modes about how that knowledge is produced? That knowledge is produced through modes. Some of those modes are converting it from basic to applied, but some of those modes are converting it from basic to applied to actually getting out of the university into the community. So that understanding shaped our framework, where we're seeing that to what extent is research being viewed by the community. These community engagement outcomes, we had three broad areas. The one was around policy. Has that knowledge of research changed or affected policy? Has that knowledge or research affected community improvements, either in jobs or health or well-being? And also the perceptions, the general perceptions within the community. What do the communities accept or perceive, or the contribution of that research? And it also we had a construct in the middle to see that the universities have some mechanisms through which they pass their research through to have it delivered to the community. These intermediate structures could relate to communication mechanisms, structural mechanisms, or knowledge translation mechanisms. Our literature review was quite varied. Essentially, we did a lot of research around research. What is research and how do universities produce that knowledge? But also, how do we relate that research to community engagement outcomes, both in Uganda, in Africa, and also around the world? How do other countries participate or allow their research to feed into their communities? And in our paper here, we restricted our scope of research to publication output. To what extent does the publication output actually determine how effective that university or that center is going to impact on both its immediate and larger communities? Research funding and collaboration. Then in the community, we're looking at policy, community improvement. What are the dimensions by which there is clear attributable impact by that research, and perception, the general conversations that communities are having around university research, and all this structured by that intermediary knowledge translation mechanisms. And in our literature, we had some gaps. We found a lot of gaps actually around this issue. Most of the evidence was from countries in the global north. We did not encounter a strong study that had very strong community participation around hearing the voice of these people in the community and about how they perceive research and how they understand that translation from end to end. Then our methodology, we employed a methods approach, and essentially what we did, we centered on three universities as a scope: Makerere University, Busitema University, and Uganda Martyrs University. Essentially, these universities are different both in their character and design, and could give us a good wide understanding of the problem that we are trying to look at. We were able to select using Yamane's formula. We were able to select about 330 academic staff across the universities, and we were able to also to hold key informant interviews within the communities around the universities and also with key informants. Our data, of course, was passed through NVivo and Stata, and we were able to perceive or to undertake those quality assurance processes. Our findings are basically that most of the people who are speaking to in the universities are male, because we're speaking to academics. Also, we found that most of the respondents were employed full-time, and most of them were actually married. This is very good socioeconomics, because then we can see how does that character enable them to actually translate that knowledge further down. So this is our finding. Basically, just click it over. I just wanted to show you. Yeah, maybe I'll go straight to the narrative. So publication output was strong. The propensity to publish in universities is quite strong. also, when we looked at the research funding, we found a very strong but really moderate. We didn't see a strong understanding of how budgets or research funds actually are likely to impact or define community imperatives. And also knowledge research collaboration was key, but it was really moderate. We didn't see a strong partnership between the university and its community stakeholders. So despite strong research output and collaboration, gaps are still apparent into how the knowledge is meant to be translated from the university to the communities. These are just some of the figures. You can see that the research activities are generally high. We had a good average there. But
5 minutes to go.
But the collaborations were not strong enough to drive what we are intending. Then also we looked at the communities. We were really engaging the communities on what their thought process was regarding the universities, which were often near them. And we saw a mismatch, Whereas from the academics, they were saying they are getting closer to the universities. The community had almost a counter-reverse understanding of how those universities are relating to them. So we had like a contrast of opinion. And they were able to share with us things around the publication output. You can see there, these are the secondary definitives of research activities. You can see that our key figure there is a 0.427, which is basically showing you fairly, although research activities are strong, it was a moderate positive. In other words, research activities in and of themselves cannot explain exactly what is happening within the community. And also we saw that in the adjusted R, where you have 17.9%. In other words, research can only explain up to 18% of what is happening in the communities. The rest of it, the 82%, is actually defined by other things besides that research. This is very important for us to understand that pouring money into research is just not solving the problem. We need to surround that money with structures, with system, and supporting frameworks. Even though we did the structural modeling, research somehow disappeared as an intermediary to allow the communities to get to that research. And that's what I'll just bring this up for us to see. And of course, our hypothesis was defined. We're basically saying that research collaboration was not satisfactory, significant, suggesting that partnerships alone may not generate measurable community impact. So the conclusion of this study is that, whereas research funding is key, research funding in and of itself is not enough. There's a key role that supplementary functionalities.
3 minutes to go.
Thank you. Supplementary activities need to be included. For instance, what kind of environments are these researchers working? What kind of equipment do they have? And not just looking at it from a financial standpoint. And then the recommendations, we are basically saying that this study has given us an extra layer for policy, because we do not look at funding research as an end, but as a means. That funded research must be supported by collaborative support system, and that research to effect change has to be complemented by this additional system. We're able to publish this work as well, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now we have done the first phase of presentations. We can open up now a Q&A briefly. We can start with the first person who presented. Those who have questions to Jackson Masanga, please. We can entertain 3 questions per presenter. Someone who's going to move the mic around. Masanga, any question for Masanga? Yes, put up your hand, we see you, and bring the mic. Run, please. Masanga.
Thank you so much, Jackson, for your presentation.
Take note of your questions, please. Those who presented, we shall call you to present after. Let us first have questions. Yes, go on, Masanga.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Jane Katsime, a PhD student. I need clarity on how you use the three theories in your study. Thank you.
Yes, another one.
Is it morning or afternoon? That's what I know. My name is Esther Namirembe, and I need clarification on the resources about CBE, competence-based curriculum. Nasanga, you highlighted about the competence-based curriculum, and you told us that it's the best curriculum because it improves the quality of education. Way down, when you are discussing, you also indicated that the resources are few. So my question is, how do these people become competent if the resources to help them carry out those practical are few? Then secondly, I failed
Please be brief.
I failed to distinguish between the first and second objective.
Yes, one more person to Masanga. What? One more person to Masanga.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Wes Patrick. Thank you, Jackson, for the presentation. I would like to know how your findings from both quantitative and qualitative informed each other, whether there was a connection or no connection. Thank you.
Yes, you can now have some 3 questions from Sister Amini to Sister Kengaiga. Sister Kengaiga, questions? If there's no question there, okay. Please you give her a microphone.
I don't have a question per se, but my comment is, like when I was looking at her instrument, it looked so bulky. So I wondered how she could hurriedly finish up her research with such a bulky questionnaire.
Okay. Yes, next. Is there any other? If there's no person, yeah, there's a person on the other end.
Thank you. I have only one question. You say that you are using self-determination theory, and it was not clear about the key tenets of the self-determination theory. I want to know that.
Yes, we want questions to Stephen Sebali now. Those who want to raise a comment or ask Stephen Sebali, yes, give me.
Thank you very much. I would wish to inquire from Sister how should ensure the smartness of objective,
very far.
specific objective 2, which has things to do with validity and reliability at the same time.
Okay, now to those who have questions for Stephen Sebali.
Thank you so much. In the findings, because Stephen has 3 universities, Makerere System and Uganda Matters, I don't know whether the findings are also representing the rest of the universities in the country, or they are particular to these 3, because I would think that the factors for the community engagement and of course the research outcomes could differ, because universities will be having peculiar issues. So I don't know whether they are for the 3 or in his own vision they represent the rest. Thank you.
Another one? For Stephen.
Thank you. My concern on Stevens, I need a clarification on the variables and then the causal direction of the conceptual framework.
Thank you so much, Florence. I'm happy to be at my university. The question for Stephen is, if you look at your objectives, you tend to talk about research activities influencing community engagement outcomes. But when you look at the conceptual framework displayed, the reverse is true. Why is it that when it comes to the conceptual, where we expect the research activities to be the IVs, instead community is?
Yes, another question. So we are now going to Peter Mwanje. Those who have questions for Peter Mwanje, yes. They are there, give them the microphone.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your presentation. My concern is why only rely on experiences to do your analysis, and two, what is guiding you in that analysis? Okay, somehow similar. Why not a survey or to be more grounded?
Next.
Thank you. My question to Peter is, what theory guided his study? I did not hear the theory that guided his study. Thank you very much.
One more.
Yeah, thank you very much. I request Peter Mwanje to come clear on the gap, which is supposed to bridge, and which tools.
So John Matsanga, you can be coming in front because we are going to respond to the questions. John Matsanga. Give him the mic. I hope you noted them down.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and colleagues. The first question, I think, if I noted well, how I used the three theories in the study. The theories. I had the three theories. And we have the constructivism theory, which states that learners should construct their own knowledge. And to construct their own knowledge, they require resources. That is the first theory. The other one of the Thorndike, it talks about preparedness and practice. The more you practice, the better for you. So for somebody to prepare in a school setting, it requires more resources, which are adequate and relevant. And the third one, the other third theory is the force theory and necessity theory. The force theory, we are looking at quality. Now quality is in the middle. Now there are forces. The force theory and necessity theory states that situations are maintained by an equilibrium between forces which drive change and others which resist change. Now, for us, we get quality and put it in the middle. We are targeting quality. Now, resources which are inadequate, which are irrelevant, they oppose. They become on the negative side. Then, if the resources. Question. Is that clear? The other, the contrast-based curriculum, CBC resources. How do these people? Now, I said, in Uganda, in the education sector, there are challenges. Because in schools, there are shortage of resources. Okay? And because there are shortage of resources, the teachers and both learners are struggling. I said in private schools, you find the books for the old curriculum. So it's very challenging. Generally, there's a big challenge in the secondary schools in Uganda, as far as the CPC is concerned. Because as I said, you find a school with 100 students having 20 books. Then on the contrary, you find a school with 100 students, meaning 20 students with 100 books, and we fail to understand what goes in that. That's why the recommendation made to help improve the situation.
I think that's so.
There's something here. The objectives. One objective was just analyzing the key essential resources, and the other one was to be handled quantitatively. I think that one. The difference there. The last one is my findings. How the qualitative and quantitative come together. Qualitatively, I just analyzed the instructional resources, the key instructional resources, and quantitatively, I discovered, empirically, I found out that the p-value being 0.0, less than 0.05 was proving that the instructional resources are significant, are important in a school setting. And qualitatively, when I asked the respondents, they were emphasizing the importance of social resources. I want to thank you.
Thank you. Sister Kengaina. Just put it there. Please answer only the 3 questions you have been asked.
Thank you so much. There were 3 concerns, and I would like to begin with the second one because it will give us the basis of all the other questions that were asked. Question 2 was that the theory tenets, the key, were not clear. I request the ICT team to flash for us slide 4. Yes, slide 4. As is opening.
But you can be talking about it.
Yes, as is opening, this instrument we are developing is clearly and strictly competence and relatedness. And then you also look at social context. So in brief, that's what I can say, the major areas that Dench and Ryan talk about.
You go to the next.
The next was a concern, the person concerned said it was not a question, but it needs clarity. The instrument looks bulky, and she wonders how the researcher will manage to collect the data. Yeah, it seems to be bulky, but I want to assure you that it is not. Why? We are trying to solve a problem of limited studies or limited existence of instruments that integrates all the constructs of self-determination theory within a single instrument. And since we are going to use quantitative approach, I think it will be okay. And because of that, you can flash slide 8. Yes?
Please, you be talking.
So in slide 8, if you followed very well from slide 1, theory of self-determination theory, and how it is applied to to completion of doctoral studies, we saw it. Slide 8. Slide 8. Yes. So when you look at this slide, you will see that again, its genesis is from slide 1, because we said it is going to be typical theory-driven instrument. You will see that completion of doctoral studies, it will replace the behavioral outcomes which were in our initial diagram of self-determination. Then motivation of a doctor's motivation, which was there, we have applied it to a doctoral student. So, and you can see those, like on sustained engagement in research. They are items which we have adapted from validated items. So, all the sections will be based on this and will be manageable.
Yes, you got the next.
At the next, I would like the presenter to repeat, because I didn't capture it very well. It was something about validity, reliability, about the objectives. The person
you had a question, you can so go to the next.
Thank
level.
you very much.
Yes. What we need to do now is we break off for tea. We pick our cups. There's another one. Oh, okay. I'm sure there are others.
So we want Stephen Sever to come. Stephen Sever. Please don't come and give a lecture, please. Just go straight to the point. Yeah. Please start even if without a microphone. You can start talking.
The first concern. The first concern was basically on how the three universities that we chose, Makerere, Makerere, Uganda Matters, and Bugema University were represented. Yes, I think one of the things that we wanted to choose and what guided our choice was first the impact and the regionality. We are taking this sample of universities from Central Uganda, as the titles told you. But also within Central Uganda, we wanted to have a representative in different categories, in both urban, peri-urban, and rural. So that's the scale of choice. That we wanted an urban university, we wanted another university which is peri-urban, and we wanted a rural university. So that informed our spread. Then there was a question about the clarification of the variables. Yes, in this study, but this is a sub-study. This is a study that was done, that was picked out from a bigger study, where in the bigger study we were looking at all the functions of the university, research, teaching, and knowledge translation. But this research objective was pulled out to produce this particular paper. So I think to clarify, we are saying that research, the volume of research in many countries and in the literature has a direct and indirect impact on communities around. If you go to Oxford or Cambridge, you will really feel that what the university is doing upstream is being felt downstream. So the choice of research,
next question.
The function of research was taken to include those three things: publications, partnerships, and collaboration, and also funding. I like the last question, which was quite telling, because she asked about the conceptual framing, how our conceptual frame was a bit different. Again, this goes back to the fact that we're doing this study out of a sample. It is part of a bigger narrative. But I think what she's saying is also right, because does the community impact the university, or does the university impact on the research? I think the direction of flow was part of our problem theorizing. When we theorize the problem, does the knowledge flow from the universities into the communities, or does the community feel the impact and drive university upstream?
I think that's enough.
I think generally, just to conclude this, I think generally the general idea was that we are in the university. What is it in the university that we can transform or change to impact downstream? So that's probably informed the logic of our thinking from upstream to downstream. But it's also right. It could also be from community upstream.
Start coming. That's the only question.
Thank you very much. Let me begin with the theory. I was recommended by the system of the theory by Fly. This theory has tenets, and you are looking at an organization as incomplete. It has tenets which say that look at all the units.
And you grant me for the eyes of the Lord. You pay for the future.
Developing this depends on the approach. The qualitative study, which informed the design, which is phenomenological design, and then the design informed what we used as to explore the in-depth experiences of the participants. That's why we used it, that design. The others, this is a systematic study, as you know, research. You may not use one for quantitative, when you are qualitative. Thank you, they were only those. Thank you.
The question with the gap, my question. Yes.
Oh.
Gap and how is it going to bridge it? That's what I was very precise. Gap and how is it going to bridge it?
The gap is that the university has undergone a number of challenges, including strikes, which is a result of the issues of communication. And so the findings that we have come up with, which suggests that we need to have diversity of tools, is covering those gaps which cause late feedback given to stakeholders and result into issues which might fail the university to become a state-led university. So the findings that I read here, presented here, covers the gap. Which gap?
Okay, I think you will meet during break time, you will fill that gap with him. So, I'm requesting we go and pick our cup of tea, we come back here. As we take our tea, we shall be now having the following presenters to go ahead. Please, the following presenters, go ahead and pick your tea, because it will be the ones, for us as we eat, you'll be presenting. That is Mudongo Kawongoro, go ahead there. Christopher Sebliva, please pick your tea. And Asimeva, I hope you have your presentation of the IT. We need PowerPoint presentations. If you have a Word document, I don't want to be able to present to us. We gave me a format of presentation. The IT is telling me there are some of you who are giving him a Word document. Now it will be very